Welcome to Brass Tracts, the firearms-focused heart of Tracts of Life, where regular guys like me break down gear and tell our story. I'm David, funding my passion for firearms and the outdoors out of my own pocket. Maybe someday I'll be lucky enough for someone else to pay for it. This is our first episode coming to you from the pit here in East Tennessee. It's mid-October 2025. Archery season is in full swing. Muzzleloader and rifle season are just a few weeks away. At Tracts of Life, our motto is, tell your story. And mine starts with my family's first ever lever action, the Smith & Wesson Model 1854 and 44 Magnum. Let's explore the first brass tracks and dive into this firearm story. Why the 1854 and 44 Magnum? Well, it's just my firearm story, sparked by never having a lever action growing up. I had friends who had 30-30s. At our house, it was 243s and 22s in bolt action. With my dad, we hunted groundhogs and squirrels. We were never into deer hunting. It wasn't until later in life that my neighbor, friend, and mentor, Bruce, first took me deer hunting. And Mr. Bruce was a passionate man of the 44 Magnum. In fact, he was a handgun hunter. And later in life, I did purchase a handgun for hunting, the Ruger Super Blackhawk Hunter Edition in .44 caliber. Now, I have yet to hunt with this gun. Bruce would be disappointed in that I've yet to use it, but hopefully he would be happy that I ultimately did purchase this gun in .44 Magnum, and hopefully he would be happy that I purchased the 1854 in .44 Magnum. Now, a little bit about thinking about a lever action in .44 Magnum. I really wasn't thinking about one over the years as something to hunt with. I just wanted it to hang over the fireplace. Like the caliber, was thrilled when I was shooting Bruce's guns, but it really wasn't something I thought about. Well, then this whole tactical lever action over the last several years kind of caught my eye. And so, besides looking at the brass gun just to hang over the fireplace, I started looking at some of the retrofits that people were doing. And then the competitor brought out an all-black edition and threaded barrels. And so that was something I had an interest of. Then last year, I start seeing the magazines where at SHOT Show that Smith & Wesson had released a lever action rifle. And so I started reading about it in the magazines and would see pictures and say, oh, that looks very interesting to me. And especially since Smith & Wesson is now headquartered here in East Tennessee. So that kind of was an incentive to start thinking about this. Well, one day this rifle showed up on the Rural King rack, and I was so excited to see it. I picked it up and looked at it and said, oh, yeah, I'll get this someday. And periodically I would stop in from time to time and look at it. And over late last fall, I think into the winter season. Well, finally I stop in February of this year. And I think today could be it. So I pick up the rifle one more time, and I ended up sending a picture to my family of the gun laying on the counter. And I get a text back from my wife, and she says, are you purchasing this? And I said, well, the future would say no. However, we can't change the past. Because actually, at the time I sent that picture, I'd already purchased the rifle. So here it is, the first lever action for Smith & Wesson in 170 years. Yes, it's their 2024 introduction of the lever action rifle. Now, they did introduce this year, about the same time that I purchased this, or at least talked about as it was coming out at SHOT Show of 2025, the Stealth Hunter Edition. Now, the Stealth Hunter has the more tactical forend. It also has the 16-inch barrel instead of what this rifle has, a 19.25-inch barrel. Both barrels are threaded. The 11/16 24 thread, ready for suppressors. Picatinny rail. This edition also has the tubular magazine. And so, but for me, this was the perfect blend of the classic look of the lever action, as well as having the tactical feel and look, obviously with the black synthetic stock. Hey, we do have M-LOK accessory slots on each side as well as on the bottom. Now, this matte stainless weather resistance was just, to me, is just a very attractive rifle. So, also, we've got, I think I said with the magazine tube, you also have a 9+1 capacity. Now, the trigger itself, specs call for somewhere around 5.5 pounds. But we'll talk about the trigger some more in a bit. But can't wait to get this thing ready to go out onto the range and really pick our hunting load for 2025. Let's talk a little bit about the optic that I chose for the rifle. And the optic that I chose was the Primary Arms SLX 3X MicroPrism. Now, why did I choose this optic? Well, let's take a look at it. Well, one, I did not want a full-size scope on this. Now, ideally, I would have liked to have been able to use the ghost ring sights, but my eyes have changed, and so I didn't want a large scope, but I didn't want a red dot either. And so this Primary Arms MicroPrism was really just, I think, the ideal middle of the road for me. It's, again, 3X, the diopter, the reticle, adjusts great for my eyes. In fact, speaking of the reticle, it is an ACSS Raptor reticle. This optic, I guess, really probably better suited for, or some would say better suited for ARs, 5.56, 308s. There's holdover points in there. I don't know how the holdovers will end up tying out with, depending on which ammo we settle on, and 0 points, but it's there. And the reticle is etched. It is illuminated. And so the advantage there is you still have the reticle over a pure red dot if you have a battery failure. So I'm really excited to get this thing zeroed in on our hunting ammo. I have shot this with some test ammo, but really excited to work with it. Up next, let's talk a little bit about the trigger. Specs, again, as I mentioned earlier in the intro, the specs said the trigger's 5.5 pounds. And that's really about what seems to be, in my testing, is what we're getting. So what we're going to do, first we're going to verify, as always, that the firearm is unloaded before we start snapping at triggers and verifying where we're going to point the weapon. So let's see what we come up with. Well, that was about a 6-pound pull there. That's probably not my best test. Let's try again. Let's see what we get. And you want to make sure and do this in the center where your finger actually rests. If I go to the tip and increase my leverage on. So right there, that's about typical of some of my tests. 5 pounds, 11 ounces. So right in line, I guess, with the specs, maybe a little more. The other thing that's annoying to me, coming from a bolt action world, is this trigger flop. which I guess is a classic lever action thing. Whether it's hammers cocked or not, that's just really quite annoying to me. So what are we going to do to fix it? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go get a third-party item. So what do we have? We've got the Timmy trigger. Now, in the trigger shoe, there's some springs there that kind of gets rid of the, or at least minimizes, I believe, the flop. I have not removed this from the package. Obviously, it's not been installed yet, so I don't know how that's going to work. But the trigger's also rated for 2.5, 3 pounds. Now, I have some Timmy triggers and some of the other bolt action rifles that I have, and so Timmy is known for their reputation for high quality stuff. So really excited about getting this thing installed and reporting back to you when we get out to the range. Well, next up, let's talk a little bit about something else we're going to be running on the 1854, and that is the suppressor. What I have is the rugged Obsidian 45. Now, this is a modular suppressor. At its max length, I think it's 8.6. It can go down to 6.7. I run this on some of the handguns. Have the pistons for 9mm, as well as the H&K 45. It's interesting, I bought this in February of 24, which is about the time that I think I started seeing maybe the Smith & Wesson literature, or at least in the magazines, about the release of the 1854. So at the time I purchased this, I went ahead and got the adapter for the 11/16 24. So I guess I really knew that when I purchased this, that I was getting it to run with the 44 Magnum. So a year earlier. But I really like this suppressor, the stainless steel baffles, aluminum tube, nice Cerakote finish. So this has just been, now I don't know, ultimately I'll probably leave it in the long configuration when I take it deer hunting. I don't know. It's one thing I'll decide. I really prefer the quieter the better, but we'll see. So just a little introduction to the rugged Obsidian 45. Hey, let's take a few moments and review some of the ammo that we'll be running through the Smith & Wesson 1854. Have a selection of Hornady here. Actually, 2 loaded cartridges from the factory. We'll have the 300 grain XTP, a bullet. Rated velocity for this bullet is, or this cartridge rather, loaded ammo, is 1,150 feet per second. That's what's stamped on the box. I think that is based on a typical pistol barrel of 6 to 8 inches. I believe that's correct. And then we also have the 225 grain. This is actually part of their Lever Revolution line. It's stamped on the box, muzzle velocity of 1,410 feet per second. Either way, we'll determine what the actual velocity is with our rifle. I have the Garmin Zero C1 Pro chronograph. I've had it for about a year. That we'll be testing those rounds with. I also have both of those bullets from those rounds, both the 300 XTP and the FTX, as you can see here. How much reloading I get accomplished here at this time of the year, going into to rifle season, I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Some of it may occur over deep into rifle season. Now, ideally, what I would really like to have is a subsonic load to really leverage the suppressor. If I do that, that's going to be the 300 XTP bullet. We'll see how that works out. I have a selection of Hodgdon powders, the H110, the Lil'Gun, and the Titegroup. On the subsonic, I think some of the reading was indicated not to use, go too low on the H110. The 16 grains maybe is the threshold. Maybe it's 18 grains. I'm working from memory. I'll double check that. But I'm probably not going to attempt to load a subsonic with the H110. It's probably going to come back to Lil'Gun and maybe Titegroup. But I'll dig deep into the loading data before we make that final decision. I also have the bullets in the XTP, also in the 240 grain. Didn't get one of those out. It's essentially the same bullet, just a little less weight. And when we do new reloading, I've got the Starline brass. Got that in inventory. That will probably start out with reloading before we empty all these expensive rounds. Depending where you look, ammo's expensive. I get it. It's probably $32. I think I paid for those, and maybe I got those for a different place a little cheaper. Maybe they're down a little bit, $28 a box. But that's a little bit about the ammo that selected. Likely going into the hunting season, I'll probably stick with the 225 grain FTX. It's kind of made this bullet looks a whole lot like the 250 grain muzzleloader bullet I use. I think it's the muzzleloader bullet, or maybe the tip's designed to expand a little better at the muzzleloader velocities. But I'm thinking, well, maybe the muzzleloader is 1800, and then again, this one's 1410 muzzle velocity. So maybe there's some variances in the bullet's construction, and probably something to research and look into. But probably we'll set up the zero for this at 100 yards going into this season. If we have time and experiment more with the 300 grain subsonic, likely that will be at 75 yard zero. But all TBD, to be determined. Just some ideas I have right now. Important thing is to get out to the range, get our T-mini trigger installed, go ahead and tune the primary arms for at least one of these, and be ready for deer season. So there you have it. The first track explored for Brass Tracts. This 2025 haul, the Smith & Wesson 1854, with the primary arms, MicroPrism SLX optic, the soon-to-be added T-mini trigger, and the rugged Obsidian 45 suppressor that we'll be using this year, along with the ammo of the Hornady 300 grain XTP and or the Hornady 225 grain FTX. You know, the day after I bought this 1854, my Tactacam reveal caught this deer in February, this 8-point buck. I sure hope he's still around so we can harvest him and hang a Tracts badge on the mount. You may be asking, hey, what's a Tracts badge? Let me tell you about a Tracts badge. A Tracts badge has a QR code to your personal video story of the harvest and hunt that you were on. Have you ever walked by a deer mount and wondered what the story was? Maybe it was a deer your grandfather shot and you never heard the story from him. Make sure your family and friends will know the story of that thrilling hunt that you experienced. Maybe that harvest of that deer was in the morning. Maybe it was in the afternoon. Maybe it was in archery, muzzleloader, or rifle. Well, here's an opportunity for you to record your story, upload it, and get a Tracts badge with the QR code to the link to that story. Let the story live forever. make sure and check us out at www.buck-tracts.com. Again, that's www.buck-tracts.com. And I'll leave you with this before we go. Remember, thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Psalms 119, 105. Make sure and hit like, subscribe on whatever social media platform you happen to be watching this video on. Comment on your gear. Tell us your story. And remember, stay safe, shoot straight, and I hope to see you soon on another video. Thanks for watching.